Up to 50,000 cars are out of date on cars.com. Where to next? We live? Peace, love, health, and well vibe. Drop like and subscribe. Help your boy break away from that 9 to 5. My name is not important, but what is the fact that I'm here on behalf of Sacred Self Healing Center, where the heart is the center for healing. Understand that when you come here, this is spa day for the soul, chicken noodle soup for the spirit, and mani and petty day for the ego. Understand that this is a hard hat area and self development is the construction site. So, unfortunately, I have to do a commercial. All right. So, with that being said, if you would like, first of all, double tap that screen, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for everybody who supported the channel in the past. Thank you for everybody who support the channel currently. And thank you for everybody who will support this in the future. Okay, so if you would like to inquire about any and all, but not limited to any of my services, double tap that button. All right. Go ahead and check out the description box. There you will see all the information you need to see about the channel. Today we have a very, very special transmission broadcasting today. We have a collective love reading for couples and singles. Okay, we got a collective love reading for couples and singles. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the couples. All right. So really quick, I just want to give a disclaimer. When I say couples and whatnot, I don't necessarily mean you have to be committed, like boyfriend, girlfriend, because like technically like there could be people who's married but separated and claim they single. There could be people who can be, boyfriend, girlfriend, and like hot and cold, all of that stuff. Shout out to you, Roblox. Peace, love, health, and wealth to you. Double tap that screen, hit that like button. So, when I mention couples, I just want to make sure that you guys know that you can be like separated, you could be like dating, you could be off and on. You know what I'm saying? But it's about having like a long term, you know what I'm saying, connection, months, years, stuff like that, right? Um, so the first card that we have here is from the Love Oracle deck, and it's the running card, okay? Ghosting, disappearing, invisible. All right. So uh in a committed situation, one of both parties could be feeling like somebody's avoiding conversations. They feel like they're emotionally cold. Maybe there is just a lot of gray area, right? And the second card we have is withdrawn, single, lonely, solitary. In a committed situation, this card could relate to someone who is possibly thinking about being single, somebody who's in a relationship but feels lonely and single. This could be a person with like a solitary personality or something like that, and they have problems connecting with others. Okay. And then the third card that we have here is the escaping card. So the escaping card says avoiding, blocking, pushing away. Okay, so the cards here is running a theme. And in a committed situation, um, how can I say this? We could be in a connection and still feel unseen, still feel unheard, still feel like we loving someone who's emotionally stepping out of the room, right? Like I said, one or both parties could have like an avoidant personality, or they can only take a little bit of stress at a time, or whatever the case is. Maybe they not emotionally invested for whatever reason. Okay. So this energy feels like one of both partners could be dealing with things internally instead of being open and honest with each other. For some reason, one or both parties keep pulling back. Somebody is shutting down, and quite honestly, they look for anything to distract themselves. That could be alcohol, liquor, whatever. Sometimes they be slow to text back, all those kind of things. All right. So, um, what Spirit is highlighting is that avoidance has become a pattern in the person, right? This is not something that just started overnight. Maybe when you guys first met, or maybe, when things was going smooth, you didn't know these things because you guys never really had the relationship tested, right? So now that we start to learn each other and we have the ups and the downs. Um, what's up, Jacob? Grand Rise and peace, love, health, and wealth, konnichiwa, all that good stuff. Now that we experiencing these ups and downs, in our relationships, we get to see how people react to stress, right? Do pressure make them crack, or do they go full steam ahead? Like, we really just begin to gauge and see how everybody is handling the ups and downs, the sways of life, right? So the patterns could be not wanting to talk, not wanting to confront, when they feel like they've been done wrong. So what they would do is that they will wait until they're pushed when they're confronted, and then they will confront you with something. And it's not necessarily like a tick for tack per se, but it's really that person was needed a jolt to get that out. All right, hurry back, Roblox. Um, Not wanting to be vulnerable is something that male, females, masculines, feminines, everybody deal with. So someone who runs, someone who withdraws, and someone who disappears emotionally actually is quite natural, to be honest with you. But let's check out the best course of action. Okay, we're gonna get back to these cards in a second. All right. So two cards. I was intended to pull more, but two cards jumped out, so we take them for face value, right? We got the Queen of Wands and the King of Swords. You cannot make this up. You can't make it up, okay? I appreciate you, Jacob. I appreciate you, sir. If that's your real gender, ma'am, sir. Okay, so Queen of Wands and King of Swords, okay? Now, like I said, I wanted to pull maybe three cards or something like that, but this is what jumped out, and I gotta respect it for what it is. Okay, so this is very powerful because this is um the divine expressed through elements. Okay, so especially for the people who is in a relationship, or who hot and cold, or things is slowing down, whatever the case is. um I feel like this is going to be a very clear message if I can be able to, get it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, I didn't like pull these cards last night. I literally pulled these cards about like 8:09 for real, and I was just, no, not even 8:09, probably a little bit farther than that, but it was a little bit after 8 o'clock, like 8:06, because I was late. So I really didn't have a lot of time to meditate on these cards. But um divine feminine via the air. I mean, divine feminine via the fire, and then we got the divine masculine via the air element, right? So we got the queen and the king. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into it. All right. So remember, the fire and water in the Queen of Wands creates a very steamy, confident, magnetic, emotional, but not in a bad way emotional, but somebody who's in touch with their emotions and they know how to express, and their body language is right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? A few things that you can really expect from both cards, but in specific, the Queen of Wands is authenticity, warmth, and self-expression, right? And the reason why is because she leads with the heart, right? The crown on her head represents higher knowledge, especially self-realization, but it's more internal for the Queen of Wands. And then for the kings, them and just for the queens themselves, and then the kings is representation of external, right? So they're more self-aware for the external, right? But that doesn't mean that the queen doesn't have a certain level of brain heart coherence, mastery, if I said that right. But the thing about the queen is that she leads with the heart, she leads with self worth, and she radiates just by being present, right? Just her presence gives off energy. The King of Swords, being a double air element, deals with clarity, truth, leadership, communication, ideas, planning, decision making, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The thing about the King is he is outwardly expressive, and he oftentimes initiates conversations. He often initiates the thoughts. So in this situation, in this relationship dynamic, we might be dealing with somebody who is is the ultimate representation of feminine, and then the blah, 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 blah. Let me sip my tea. The ultimate representation of the Queen of Wands being the feminine, and then the ultimate representation of the masculine being the King of Swords, right? And I mean, I guess you can say the Queen of Cups would be the ultimate feminine, but I guess in this case we gotta accept the Queen of Wands for face value. Okay. Um. So best course of action. How do these cards help with the avoidance in a relationship, right? This is a very common problem. Well, I think the first thing we need to do is recognize who we are as an individual and the role that we take in the relationship, whether we balanced between masculine and feminine, whether we balance between being outwardly expressive and holding things back, and speaking with like body language or whatever. But we need to recognize who we are and what we bring to the table, and then secondly, we need to recognize who and what our partner, what energy they bring to the table as well. And the reason why that's important is because we'll be able clear the King of Wands represents clarity, right? That's why his head is above the clouds. If you notice, her head is above the clouds too. Actually, there's no clouds in the sky for her. So that means she is ultimately clear. But especially when you're looking at the swords cards, when you got heads above the clouds, that means someone is thinking clear. Okay. So the Queen of Wands is the person that says, I bring my full self expression into this connection. I'm not going to dim myself. I'm not going to disappear. I'm not going to perform outside of my character. I'm going to be expressive, affectionate, and confident in who I am. But the Queen of Wands being so fiery and steamy, right? It could be hard for her to really level off with someone who's dealing with heavy air element energy, right? And the reason why is because even though by nature the queen being mature, she carries some air energy, but those that queen and that wand energy kind of outshadows that crown that she rocks, right? That being a representation of higher knowledge and the spiritual connection to the divine. Um, the King of Wands is willing to have connections, conversations to strengthen connections. He's willing to protect any and everything, right? He's willing to do any and everything to protect the connection. He speak the truth. He sets the standards. He set the tone, and he address what needs to be addressed instead of pretending like it doesn't exist. This is very important, is because the King of Wands do not, and I repeat, the King of Wands do not judge. The King of Wands sees a problem and he fixes it. He don't want to carry it. He don't want to linger on. So the problem with that is that when we dealing with avoidant personality, or we dealing with firecracker energy, or when we dealing with short tempered, or somebody who's contemplating on just giving up on a whole relationship, um, that can make communication very, very hard. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a matter of being able to level off, right? So as best course of action, being warm, open, and expressive, right? And letting your partner know that their expression and affection is needed is very important. Um, if you have things that you need to express to your partner, it's very important that you be honest, direct, and emotionally responsible. What do I mean? That means you express yourself without making the other person feel judged. You express yourself with I statements. Say, I feel like you don't care when you shut down and don't talk to me when I'm upset. I feel like you don't care when I'm upset. But when you're upset, I try to fix whatever's the problem, right? When you say things and bring things to people's attention, they listen, they think about it, and if they really care about you, they care about what they say. Now some people just have a really good poker face, and they know that they can't just turn it off immediately right then and there, right? But sometimes we have to, as people with the air element energy, or the King of Swords energy in a relationship, we have to give that other person that time and space to cool off, if you understand what I'm saying. um if we the person with the masculine or the King of Swords energy, we got to be aware of a few things, right? And we got to be able to communicate these things to our partner. And if you the person with the Queen of Wands energy, and you need to bring in more King of Swords energy, um there's a few things that need to happen, right? um we need to stop tiptoeing around issues. We need to stop trying to read between the lines, and get clarity whenever there is any type of misunderstanding. Um and that's going to eliminate the need for a guessing game. Um when we start saying what we feel, we start naming what's missing in a relationship. And when we start naming what's missing in a relationship, we start creating emotional safety again. And that doesn't matter how you've been hurt, how you've been violated, because if you're still giving that person a chance, or if that person's still giving you a chance, then there's still a chance. But both people got to do their part. Um, when fire and air works together, the flame doesn't die, it get redirected, because you take the passion and you use the knowledge gained to make everyday life better. Many of our relationships right now are being called to move from emotional distance back into a conscious connection, right? And for the singles, I'm gonna give you a hint on something. Uh, start off your next relationship, or for people who's in a relationship, start off today, this moment, from this moment forward, start off being more conscious in your connection, okay? So that is going to complete the love reading for both the couples, okay? So where we at, 20 minutes. All right. So peace, love, health, and well vibe. Tribe, like and subscribe. Help your boy break away from that 9 to 5. This is going to be the collective love reading for singles. For those who just came in, thank you. Double tap that screen, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. Okay. So let's talk singles. All right. For the people who's dating, for the people who got kind of newer situationships, friends with benefits, whatever, people who's in a getting to know somebody, just talking stage, or even if you think this is a soulmate of training, okay, this is the reading for you. Okay, so we got running, and these are probably cards that you don't want to hear, but I guarantee by the end of this reading is going to make things very, very clear. Okay, so we got running, ghosting, disappearing, and invisible. Okay, so somebody is in a gray area. Somebody is in a fog about something. So there's some misunderstandings or something going on. Okay, we have the withdrawn card. Okay, now if you notice, we starting to follow a theme. Okay, so the withdrawn card says single, lonely, and solitary. All right, single, lonely, and solitary. Then lastly, we have the escaping card. Okay, avoiding, blocking, and pushing away. All right. So if you can't see, it's like footprints and some sand. All right. So we start off with somebody walking through the fog, and then there's like, it looked like snow, like it looked cold and barren with some sort of pine tree. Then it looked like foot tracks in the sand. All right. So as a single person, that is very, very interesting. I'm hoping that's what you're thinking, right? Hopefully that's what you're thinking, right? Very interesting, right? So we pulled oracle cards from the love oracle deck, and it strongly speaks of inconsistent energy. Someone shows interest and then disappears. Someone communicates and then pulls back. Someone starts and then goes quiet. Hmm. For singles, this has been about meeting people who are emotionally unavailable, people who are unhealed, and people who are unsure of what they want. But Spirit is saying that this cycle ends when we change how we show up, who we give access to. All right. Because the best course of action again is what? Queen of Wands, King of Swords. Right? Queen of Wands, King of Swords. Now, for the single people or for the people who didn't see the reading earlier, these two cards jumped out the deck. You can't make this up. If you know how I shuffle, I don't get a lot of leaper cards, as they call them. But we got an ultimate representation of masculine and feminine energy in a relationship. Now, this is not physical reading, could be for lesbians, it could be for any same-sex marriage or whatever, non-binary, whatever. But it's about roles and styles of communication, really, if you understand what I'm saying. And if not, then hopefully I can bring some clarity to you. So, this part of the reading actually is very beautiful because it brings balance and harmony to what started off to be kind of kind of unbalanced. Well, not unbalanced, but kind of a scary situation, right? Who wants to be single and then get into a situation with a person who's avoidant and this one and that one? Um, I ain't even been checking the chat. My bad if anybody came in. Double tap that screen, hit that like button, y'all. I'm just sitting here focused on these cards. But the Queen of Wands is in general sacral energy, right? And that's creativity, self-confidence, attraction, joy, being comfortable, being seen, being the life of the party, but you know, being humble as well. You know what I'm saying? Now, on the opposite end, the king, and remember, the queens are a representation of a master, of a person who's very self aware internally, right? What they feel. Uh, and the King of Wands is, I'm sorry, the King of Swords represents uh, a person who thinks very deeply, who uses discernment, a person who asks questions, a person who observes all behavior, his own as well as others. The King of Swords values consistency, honesty, and communication. For our singles in the Vibe Tribe, this is the season of dating with both the heart and mind in play, right? As best course of action, the Queen of Wands tells us to keep the fire, keep the passion, don't get closed off. But the King of Swords tells us to don't get caught up fantasizing, don't get caught up being overly confident. Because we have to be balanced, right? uh, this best course of action duo is about being warm. It's about being open, expressive. It's about being flirty. And it's about, most importantly, being authentic while also being selective, observant, and willing to walk away from any unclear energy. And that's the King of Swords, right? You see the duality there? Spirit is saying that if you dim yourself, don't dim yourself. Especially don't dim yourself to keep someone. Don't perform to hold someone close, and don't ignore red flags to feel chosen. Instead, show up, because when you show up in your full vibrant self, uh, you're going to demand clarity in return. Okay, so you moving in your authenticity is going to demand clarity. All right. Now, one thing that's going to be as important is, as a single person, you're going to need to know who, how, what's your best, how do you like to communicate, right? Especially, how do you like to communicate with people when things are getting tough, right? When things is uncomfortable. Um, if you are in a situation and you are the person who is good with communication, but you're dealing with someone who isn't, uh, I want you to come back to the King of Swords with the self-respect, but I also want you to come back to the Queen of Wands when you talk about self-worth. And the reason why I say that is because, as a person who is very logical, sometimes logic will tell you to match energy, right? And even sometimes if you have to match energy to teach a lesson, you don't want to get caught up in that energy, right? Because the whole point of reaching down is to bring the person up. You're not supposed to reach down and then play with shit, so to speak. All right. We pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off, and we keep moving. Um, Put these cards together. The King and Queen is saying that this is the end of a cycle for a lot of singles. It's a lot of singles who've been dealing with a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, um, low self worth. etc., etc., etc. And and this is a reminder that uh the love that you seek will not require you to chase it. Like you won't have to run. Like I always tell people, like when you buy a puzzle, right? All the pieces for the puzzle is there. So you just have to take time and make sure that y'all agree on the picture. You see what I'm saying? So like you is half of the puzzle and the other person is the half of the puzzle. Y'all got to see if the goals and the dreams that y'all have, right? Y'all personalities, all of that stuff, y'all areas of compatibility, we have to make sure that those things match. It's not like let's just have a one night stand and then get married tomorrow and then we get to know each other on the honeymoon. Like it don't work like that. Like it's very rare that those things end up happy, truly. Right? Especially for the average common folk. Right? Um, if you've been feeling cold, if you feeling like your person has been avoiding you or not been giving you what you need, you gotta understand that when you operate in that love frequency and not in that hurt frequency, um, the warmth that you seek is going to meet your presence. You don't have to run, you don't have to chase it. Um, Being open and honest is going to create a fertile ground for healthy plants to grow, right? Uh, And so, with that being said, that is the end of the collective reading. I want to thank everybody for stopping through. All four of y'all. Um, yeah. So, if anybody would like to leave any feedback, any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. If not, then I'm probably about to go because I only got a few minutes before I roll. All right, y'all. Last call for alcohol. I'm gonna stop this, download it, edit it, and re-upload it, baby. All right, y'all. So I'll be back in a little while, probably after breakfast. Peace, love, health, and wealth. Wait, I just seen a couple people just come in. So I don't know. Last call. If y'all want a free reading or whatever, let me know. I just completed the collective reading. I didn't want this live to be too long because I wanted it to download fast and to edit quickly. All right, y'all. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to be of service to you all, and I wouldn't rather be nowhere else but right. Chill, chill, chill. Right. Chill, chill now. All right, y'all. So if you know what I'm about to say it with me. Peace, love, health, and wealth. Wait, a couple people just came in. All right, last call. All right, y'all. We got free and donation based readings. No waiting. No waiting. No waiting. Oh, I forgot the chat be froze on my phone. I'm tripping. Look, the chat been moving. Ain't nobody said nothing though, but Let's see. All right. I forgot I gotta check the chat on the computer. All right. So I'm about to be out if I thought we y'all. Peace, love, health, and wealth. Anything else, put it back on the shelf. Why? Because I ain't buying a piece. Oh yeah. Bye bye. I love